Welcome back to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network, proudly presented by Hewitt Diamonduros Law, HD Law, SC.com. We are now joined by our good friend David Soderquist, High Top Dave on X. Make sure that you're following along to talk about the Florida Gators. And we are recording a little before the show. So let me just go ahead and say we are live watching Alabama in Gainesville taking on the Gators on the hardwood right now. 12 minutes left in the first half. Florida is up 18-13. We'll get into that in just a moment. Dave, how are you, man? What's going on? Surviving this winter weather and continuing to pull for the Gators. What's going on?
It's kind of crazy when you have a year where I live in North Georgia, but you have a year where like some of the other southern states or some of the counties, southern counties and like in Georgia and then the southern state of Florida actually gets more snow than you do when you live up in North Georgia. So it's been kind of a weird year for winter weather and I guess nor'easters or whatever you want to call them. I'm not the weather expert, but it's been pretty interesting of a winter as of late.
Yeah, no doubt. And that kind of, we've talked a lot about how the weather almost informs what season sports wise that we're in and kind of sets the temperature in our, no pun intended, in our minds about what's supposed to be going on. It doesn't necessarily feel like we are heading down the stretch of SEC basketball season and about to welcome baseball onto the diamond because there's snow on the ground. But nevertheless, a lot has been happening in Gainesville. I want to start here with this basketball team as obviously Florida comes off a national championship last year. A big matchup, first time that SEC men have been on a Sunday since the 2017-2018 season. And so a rare treat for us today for many of our Southern friends who are snowed in to have an SEC men's basketball game here in the middle of the day. Again, as I said before, Florida with a slight edge as it is right now, but obviously a lot of headlines around this game considering the Alabama addition of Charles Bediako, who is coming back from the G League, and we have the legal back and forth of what does this mean? How does this happen? Not really. I would love to get your take on players coming back into the college ranks. But the thing that I love most about it, Dave, is that Todd Golden in an interview earlier this week, and this has been widely publicized on any and everybody talking about this game, says we'll beat them, and if he plays, we'll beat them anyway. I absolutely love this quote. National championship confidence for the Florida head coach as they go into a big matchup in the SEC race. Your thoughts so far on kind of what this basketball team means in Gainesville?
Yeah, it's real crazy. Coming from a guy that's mainly covered football last year, obviously you get really interested in wanting to watch it because Florida was just on a magical run last year with Walter Clayton and some of those guys who are now gone this year. And you have to reload. Somebody that covers football, man, you really start watching the basketball team just because of all the talk of it and everything, the talk of the town. So it's been pretty eye-opening for me as a football fan to watch basketball and get more intrigued and get more interested into it. But so far, I mean, this basketball team, we went so long in a major sport without winning a national championship, and finally, you get one in basketball, and now you're 3 for 3 with football and basketball, something that a lot of schools, I don't even think a school has done recently here. So, adding that into your repertoire or maybe some of the things that you've done as a school really intrigues just a fan base and makes, more of the fans want to come out and watch some of these games. I mean, there's kids camping out just to get to the games so they can fit inside of the basketball stadium. So I don't think I've ever seen that for a while, especially when Mike White was here. But at the end of the day, Florida has been on a magical run. They had to reload this year. Right now, they're leading the nation in the rebounds. You introduced Boogie Flan, Xavier Lee, some of the top 2 portal additions. They had a little bit of a slow start this year, but now you're starting to slowly see them come on. I mean, Florida has 5 players now in the double figures averaging points, Haw, Condon, Chinlu, Fland, and Lee. So I think that's another surprise too, is Ruben Chinlu, more of your defensive guy. He's starting to add points to the board as well. So, Florida is not just a one-dimensional team when it comes to the offense now. They have multiple guys that can score double digits. And I think that is what, really it makes this year really intriguing is the fact that you had a kind of a slow start with Boogie and Lee trying to get into a rhythm, but now they're slowly starting to turn the corner there. And now Florida's starting to make a little bit of a noise now this year.
You absolutely hit the nail on the head, I think, in terms of Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland. You expect somebody who comes off of being the leader of an Arkansas team for Boogie Fland to come in here and kind of take over. Let's be honest, this is a guard-driven game, especially when it gets into the tournament here in just over a month. But they did start slow. There was a very Walter Clayton Jr. sized hole in this team, and I watched them early in the year against Duke, and it was blatantly obvious that there was going to have to be some shifting of leadership roles and where the scoring is coming from. I think Thomas Houck is the best player on this team, and I think if the game runs through him, obviously you have size with Handlock and with Chinulu, but Thomas Houck is a guy that I think they can run this offense through, and when he gets going, they obviously can take off. It's a little bit different, I think, than how most teams think in 2026 because it is so guard driven down the stretch when you get into tournament time. But if he's the guy that needs to have the ball in his hands, then I think that's the way that Todd Golden is going to go as I'm watching him make a move here and then a little high-low from Chinulu down for the bucket. But the biggest thing, you're coming off a big win in the middle of the week, an SEC all-time greatest margin of victory against South Carolina and Columbia in the middle of the week last week, and
Did
then
the Gamecocks show up?
The jury is
still. I'm just asking questions. I am here to keep us fair and make sure we don't get too skewed over here.
Well, what I really thought was funny about that game and what I really liked about it is a lot of South Carolina fans were still staying past it and kind of, cheering with some of the Florida people. It was kind of hilarious when you watched the end of the game. When I didn't get to watch the first half of that game, but when I looked at the score at halftime, I was like, wow.
Okay, Rob didn't watch the second half, so you guys together watched the whole game.
That is correct.
So
yeah, and then they wound up winning by what was it, 40 points, 40-plus points? And
45, yeah.
Yeah. So it wound up being a record. I think some Florida record, an SEC record. So
SEC record, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you're looking at that game and you're like, okay, wow. Where's Florida at now? We were talking about turning this corner real slow, and then all of a sudden you have a big 45 point dominance over South Carolina. Now I know South Carolina is not maybe the best basketball team that's out there, but to score 45 points and have a 45-point differential on somebody is really good.
Well, you mentioned half to half, and this was mentioned on one of the other shows on our network earlier this week on Inside the Gamecocks. If Florida had not scored the entire second half, which you watched, the game would have gone into overtime. So that just tells you the margin of victory that was there. But a lot of momentum heading into this big matchup today, a ranked matchup against Alabama, two teams that are expected to maybe make a run down the stretch. And as I said before, Bediako coming in for Alabama as he takes a three from the corner off the top of the backboard here with just under 10 minutes left in the first half. The biggest thing for me, what do you like about the confidence of somebody like Todd Golden saying, it doesn't matter what you throw at us. It doesn't matter if they bring somebody back from the G League. We're going to beat them anyway. Is that your style as someone who covers the Gators? And we can translate this into any sport, right? Do you want a coach who's going to speak out and say something like that? Or does it kind of give you a little bit of pause to say, let's not be cashing those checks just yet?
Yeah, I mean, every coach has their style, obviously. I think in a way, and even I think Alabama's coach said something about it too, didn't really care. And Todd Golden even admitted to himself, he's like, I'm pretty sure their head coach doesn't care about what I said. He's going to bring it, and he's going to want to take our heads off, and we're going to want to do the same thing. So at the end of the day, maybe it fires your team up and makes them want to even play even harder. But at the same time, you're giving Alabama bulletin board material as well for them to play as hard too. So, you really got to step your game up now because those guys are going to want to come for your head, and they're going to want to, in the post game say, yeah, I remember Todd Golden said this, but we did this and we showed him who was boss. So, in a way, I guess it's not really I guess you could say it's kind of my style. Spurrier was kind of that way as well, with kind of the cocky, I guess, arrogant comments, but also at the same time, I feel that Todd Golden's just very confident in his team and in the way that they've played down the stretch. And, but yeah, I mean, great bulletin board for material for Alabama because it's just going to make them play just as harder.
I feel like that is a new age of college sports, though, and even professional sports, where bulletin board material now is almost like the standard. It used to be very vanilla. Don't put anything out there, and now you've got teams. I think of TCU is probably the best at trolling in college football. I don't know what the hell they're doing half the time, but I think it's fantastic, and I love that energy and that confidence that Todd Golden has come through. He's not worrying about mining the G League for it. He's got his own players, and I think it's been that spark that's helped to light Florida. I got to ask you about Mr. Sumrall because I know Mr. Sumrall has been there.
Yeah.
What is that relationship? Has there been much of a relationship there? I know Sumrall's been to a lot of the games. He's got the Florida on there, no logo there. But talk a little bit about our guy Jon Sumrall.
Yeah, that guy was passing out pizzas for people waiting in line today for the game. So, yeah, he's a man of the people. Jon Sumrall is a very night and day version from what we used to have in Billy Napier. Billy Napier was more your reserved kind of, just straightforward business kind of guy. Didn't really, say much of anything and was just all about business, right? Now, Sumrall is very intense. He's very real. He's very, urgent about everything that he does. I mean, when he came in and his first presser that he ever had when he got hired, he said, look, I got a 5-year plan. He's like, but I don't want to win in 5 years. I don't want to win in 5 months. He goes like, I want to win right now. So, and I think you're starting to kind of see the urgency from Jon Sumrall because, I mean, this transfer portal season, usually Billy in the portal moved really slow. We used to like tweet out like sloth gifts with Billy Napier because like he would always want tape and measurements. He would look at all this stuff and we'd wind up getting like 2 or 3 guys out of the portal. We could have got like 20 or whatever. Jon Sumrall came straight in here and we had like 40 visits from the portal and we got the guys, a lot of the guys from Georgia Tech that, was in Buster Faulkner's system. And, Stockton was a guy that was one of their main targets last year, Georgia Tech's offense. He comes over from Georgia Tech. You get one of the offensive linemen from Georgia Tech there as well. And you get Aaron Philo, a guy that, it doesn't, on a star level, he doesn't like bust the charts or anything like that. If you go by high school, he broke a lot of passing records in high school. He had consistent 4,000-yard seasons with 60-70% completion ratings. That's something you like to see from a quarterback. It's pretty hard to do no matter what the competition is. He was in Buster Faulkner's system for 2 years. He comes over there from Georgia Tech. You get rid of DJ Lagway. He goes out there to Baylor. So it's going to look like a different team. It's definitely going to look like a different offense with Buster Faulkner. And, that guy obviously is a guy that if you listen to an interview, I think he had an interview with either Scott Carter or I believe it was somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I listened to the interview. It was Sean Kelly. And he talked about, switching up the offense, switching up plays. He goes with the flow of the game, right? Mm-hmm. And he doesn't let you know what's coming. And I think what Florida was missing was everything was predictable on offense when Billy Napier was here, right? I mean, I think I heard a Miami coach after they beat us 41-17 2 years ago and said, we knew every play that they were going to throw at us. And Miami wound up having one of the worst defenses that year with Canton Ward, right? But they had a really good offense, but their defense wasn't blocking anything. So, you score 17 points against one of the worst defenses in the league, that shows how much of an offensive prowess you have and how much predictability that you have in your offense. So I think, bringing in Buster Faulkner, is super exciting for Florida Gator fans. And I don't know, man, like Sumrall just seems like a guy that wants to win. He's very real, bringing in Phil Troutwine there as well. I mean, we've got a lot of good additions O-line wise and assistance wise that I think that Florida can definitely turn around their team and get more wins this season. It's just how many wins do they get? How immediate is it? And look, he's going to have some time to do it as well. And I think, eventually as they start seeing the results and, bringing over these guys that you did from the transfer portal, I think a lot of those boosters with NIL will probably step up and probably donate some more money too.
Yeah, and I think every time he said Buster Faulkner, I was flinching. I was like,
I'm sorry.
Look, I was thinking about like what could have been in the RPOs and all the good stuff. I think that is an interesting part. I think Buster Faulkner, everybody knows my love for him and what he does in the RPO game. DJ Lagway is gone. I think that's probably the best thing for both sides. It just didn't seem like that was going to be a good fit. It gives everybody a fresh start. Whether you get a fresh start in Baylor, that's another show. We won't worry about that here. I did also love the fact that you guys brought in Eric Singleton. That was another guy that I was hoping the Dogs would bring in. So I think he's going to be effective. My question, I think the big question still becomes, that was the question under Billy, is the quarterback. You've got Aaron Philo, who was there for 2 years at Georgia Tech. Can he be that guy? He's got some nice pieces in the backfield. He's going to have some nice wide receivers out there. But it's going to be able to, can Buster Faulkner get him up to speed, get him ready so that Florida can be clicking? Because when the Florida Gators are successful, they're scoring in bunches and they're putting up the points on the board.
Yeah, and I think having Jaden Baugh back there in the backfield definitely helps as well and alleviates some of the pressure off the quarterback, rushing for 1170 last year. Yeah, that quarterback position is something we discussed on High Top a lot. It's like, okay, you bring in Aaron Philo, but like if you look at college quarterback experience just on field, there's really not a lot, right? Aaron Philo played sparingly in Georgia Tech, and he had to come in at some points for Haynes King, but he didn't really play that much. And he had a good bit of amount of reps, and he's been in the system for 2 years. But how much does he really translate to the college level in the SEC? We're going to find that out, I guess, this season. But behind him, you have Tramel Jones, you have Bailey, you have Warner. Not a lot of quarterbacks with a lot of college experience. I think that's one of the worries that Florida fans have right now is this guy the right choice? And if he is, can he stay healthy? Because if he can't stay healthy, then you're having to rely on a sophomore in Tramel Jones. You're having to rely on an experienced quarterback in Harrison Bailey. I'll say that he is experienced, but obviously, he's had his struggles. He can't make it on the starting depth chart at other places as well. Really good kid, though. Love the kid to death. We've interviewed him, had him on High Top. But, when you look at that quarterback room, that is the general worry consensus from the Florida fan standpoint. But the good thing is you brought in Evan Pryor as well as a backup running back to Jaden Baugh, a guy that's averaged 6 to 7 yards per rush. He can run a 4.4, 4.3. He's one of those guys that if he gets an open space, he can take it to the house. Baugh's more of your bruiser running back. He's going to be able to take hits. He can juke really well. He's your bruiser guy that, if the offensive line's struggling, he's going to get you those tough yards. So I think that's a good 1-2 combo on those two running backs. And you bring in the running back from ECU as well. And he's a guy that, showed on special teams, he can take it to the house too. So I think Florida did really good in the running back room as well, as opposed to the quarterback room. So I think those three running backs that Philo or whoever's going to be the starter, we're assuming Philo will be as the season starts, he's going to have a plethora of guys back there to help him out in certain situations if he is struggling.
It's SEC Sunday night here with David Soderquist, High Top Sports, talking to the Florida Gators as we see Thomas Houck go up top to Alex Condon for the alley-oop, and Florida now with a 28-25 lead, just under 7 minutes in the first half. David, you talked a little bit through the offensive roster there, and if you look at the success that Florida has had over the course of their history, we've seen two coaches on offense who have really had a breakout experience in Gainesville, and that would be obviously Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. When you look at the construction of this offense, I never liked the hire of Billy Napier because I thought it was going to slow them down. His style is just going to slow things down too much there, and he needs to move a little more quickly. In Gainesville, it seems like, and utilize those Florida athletes. But when we talk about roster construction, it's a different conversation in 2026 because now we have to talk about money, and we need a GM in a lot of places. And so the money that was paid out to Jaden Baugh, who you mentioned, who was just under 1,200 yards last year and is going to be an asset to that offense this year. How did you guys feel about the money that was allocated there at the running back position, which we often see is a position of where they're a dime a dozen and you're going to get a guy for maybe a cheaper price? Was there any sentiment that maybe, hey, we could use some of this money to go add some additional pieces, or was everybody kind of on board with going all in on Jaden Baugh?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people that were scared we were going to lose Wilson, we were going to lose Baugh, we were going to lose, Jaden Woods, who entered the portal there as well. So I think that you should allocate a lot of your money to retaining players because there is tampering and there is offers being thrown everywhere. Texas tried really hard to get Jaden Baugh. There were some other schools there as well. But I think Jaden Baugh is just a Florida guy. He loves the University of Florida. Obviously, he got a pay raise, one heck of a pay raise after last year. But when it comes to certain positions, I know just talking to amongst the consensus of Florida Gator fans that they probably wish they added a little bit more O-line, maybe a little bit more D-line. But, if your coaching staff and they feel confident in your O-line and your D-line and the depth that they have, then, by all means, just so be it. But I think, it is important to retain your players in this day and age. But I also think you should, as a NIL, I guess, company or however you disperse those funds to also be able to, fund stuff for new players in the portal each year. Because now you're really starting to see where people are starting to go back on like offering a bunch of money to these 5-star high school quarterbacks because we can just go into the portal and get an experienced guy and we already know what he can do. And it's worth spending the money because you don't have any questions there, right? Now, you find a guy that's a 5-star quarterback in high school and he's just lighting up scoreboards, looks really well, maybe like a Will Greer type from, I'm just throwing that out there because I'm a Florida fan. Maybe you go after a guy like that. But I think you're slowly starting to see now a lot of teams waiting till portal time to bring in an experienced quarterback if that's what they need. I mean, Miami does that a lot. I don't think we always make the joke that Miami doesn't develop high school quarterbacks, right? But I mean, they're going to the portal and getting the best guy out of the portal every single year. At least they know what they're getting out of that quarterback. So, I think you're starting to see more of the guys in the transfer portal start to get more established players because they're probably worth the money as just guessing to see if somebody in high school is going to be the guy.
Yep. And, Craig is a big fan of Miami's quarterback strategy as well, as that did very well for them this year, getting one of the most
David and I were high-fiving that last pass by Carson.
Hey, look.
I mean, we both were shocked. I mean, I think there were tears running down our face. We're like, I can't believe it. Our poor Carson.
What'd you expect?
That's it. Hey, David, thanks a lot for being with us. I just wanted to give you a chance before we get out of here.
Okay.
Any big hot take? We are officially closed on 2025, and we're going to 2026. Do you have a bold prediction or anything for us? We'll get you in a little early. Next week we're gonna talk about some big bold predictions, and Craig and I are gonna hint at a few of them tonight as well. So you tell me anything Florida related that you think is going to happen in 2026.
I think they'll make a playoff. Schedule's a lot easier.
There it is.
Bringing in a new offensive mindset. Defense is still going to be good. We'll see.
I got one for David. You ready? The Florida Gators will be in the Final Four. Not for college football. Women's college lacrosse. The Gators
there we
come
go.
in at number 4, preseason number 4. There we go. See?
There we go. See? Hey, we're in the Final Four or something, right?
Leave it, Craig. Leave it to our resident lax bro to find a way to bring us back around to lacrosse. David Soderquist, Hilltop Sports. Dave, thanks so much for being with us. As always, wonderful stuff. This is SEC Sunday Night, and we'll be right back.